if I was going to hijack an airplane, I'd want it to be in this one. I am the director. This is my movie. Let's do this thing. So obviously, the best way to start this off would be to show you the greatest plane crash ever filmed. I wrote it with my dad because I wanted him to be in the movie. Well, first of all, he was my first choice. And second, he actually flew planes in the military, so it felt like a perfect fit. We practiced so many times until we got it just right. And then when we actually got the green light to crash a plane, we were both like, oh God, are we really gonna do this? Like, are they gonna let us really crash a plane? Well, almost right. The plane crash you saw at the beginning, that was take 3. We had to do it 3 times. You know, when you look at it closely, you can tell that he was scared, but he was also excited. Like any good pilot, he wanted to make sure that everything was as realistic as possible. Well, not really a true story, but it's based off of a true story. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about it, but let's just say it involves a lot of water. I'm very excited about it. I think it's gonna be a great movie. When I was in the military, I met this guy who told me this crazy story about how he crashed a plane. I wanted to make the best movie I could possibly make, and I think I did that. I mean, I gave it everything I had. I put my heart and soul into this movie. And I was like, wow, that's an amazing story. And I knew that he would have loved to see this movie. I hope he's proud of me. You should make a movie about that. And he was like, yeah, I've thought about that. And then we started talking about it, and I was like, you know what? I think I can make that movie happen. Thank you for letting me share my vision with the world. Thank you for letting me crash your planes. I'm just kidding. Well, kind of. So he spent hours in the simulator just getting it just right. We even had a former Army pilot on set to make sure everything looked realistic. And I think it really paid off because when you watch the movie, you feel like you're right there in the cockpit with him. And after the 3rd time, I was like, please let this be the one. Like, don't be afraid to follow your dreams. Don't be afraid to take risks. You only live once. So make the most of it. You really connect with the character and you care about what happens to him. I'm not afraid to take risks. I think that's what separates the good directors from the great ones. We had a lot of long days, a lot of hard work, a lot of red tape, a lot of crashing planes. But at the end of the day, it was all worth it because when I saw the final cut, I was like, wow. This is actually a movie. And that's because Scott Adkins is such a phenomenal actor. He brings so much emotion to the role. I remember watching one of his fight scenes and I was like, wow, he makes it look so effortless. Like he's just floating around these guys, kicking their ass left and right. And then you realize that he actually worked really hard to make it look effortless. Like he put in the work to make it look easy. And that's what separates him from the rest. And then when we saw the footage, we were all like, yes, that's the one. Now, in case you were curious, Scott is actually a black belt in Hapkido, which is impressive because I can barely tie my shoes. Like we had this huge team of people, like over 100 people, and they all came together and made this movie happen. And that's not easy to do. You know, you have all these different personalities, all these different visions, and you have to bring them all together and make it work. And we did. He passed away 4 years ago from pancreatic cancer. So this movie is dedicated to him. The story follows Jack, played by Scott Adkins. He is a corporate assassin. His job is to go around the world and assassinate people who have information that could ruin the company. And this time, he has to kill someone on a plane. And obviously, things don't go according to plan, and now he has to land this plane safely. That's easier said than done. And yes, that is a real plane going down. It's not CGI, and no, we didn't pay the pilot to do this. He literally crashed his plane while filming for our movie. But don't worry, he's totally fine. I went to film school. Well, I went to university. They had a film program. I studied acting. So if that's not up your alley, then maybe this movie isn't for you. Or maybe you're just watching because you love watching movies crash. No judgment here. So I kind of learned how to direct by doing it, like jumping into the deep end. Just get thrown in there and hope for the best. I just finished writing the script. Now, you might be wondering, why did I cast Scott Adkins? This movie is very intense and action-packed. There's a lot of fighting, shooting, explosions, car chase. The biggest challenge of making this movie was definitely landing the plane. It's funny because when I was writing the script with my dad, he always said, they're never gonna let us crash a plane. When I was directing this scene, it was really interesting because you could see the fear in Scott's eyes. What's cool about this movie is that it's not just an action flick. There's also a lot of heart. Now, I'm not gonna lie, making this movie was a huge challenge. The most rewarding part of making this movie was seeing everyone come together and make something great. I think what makes this movie special is that it's a true story. So the movie is not out yet, but I'm already working on my next project. I chose to make this movie because I wanted to push myself. I wanted to make this movie for my dad because he was a pilot and he loved planes. If you have any advice for anyone who wants to follow in my footsteps, I would say just do it. I think what sets me apart from other directors is that I'm not afraid to fail. And finally, I want to say thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.